Judge John Bates, and this decision really kind of made me look into this guy a little bit and who these judges actually are. You know what he was? He was on the FISA court. Remember that? That's that court that had over 300,000 abuses of our constitutional protection. He was a judge there. He was also the judge who ruled against Trump in his first term that kept DACA in place and even it opened up to new illegals.
I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said, we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time.
Federal judge is blocking the Trump administration from offering more buyouts to federal employees.
Another federal judge blocked Trump's executive order to ignore the Constitution and end birthright citizenship.
It's now not, because that too has been blocked.
Wait, no, wait. What?
By a federal judge. You know what else got blocked today? Another one.
Meanwhile,
if there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy.
Insufferable. These people have massively overstepped. And on top of all the other orders, today, a federal judge decided what a government agency apparently can put on its own website, overriding Trump's order to take things down related to gender ideology over at HHS. Judge John Bates, and this decision really kind of made me look into this guy a little bit and who these judges actually are. You know what he was? He was on the FISA court. Remember that? That's that court that had over 300,000 abuses of our constitutional protection. He was a judge there. He was also the judge who ruled against Trump in his first term that kept DACA in place and even it opened up to new illegals. Funny enough, on February 7th, that's the judge, though, that declined to issue a restraining order against Doge accessing the Treasury records. But if this doesn't show you how incestuous this whole system is, the Democrats just walked across the hall and shopped another judge. This one, appointed by Obama.
You'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings. And he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants.
Meanwhile,
this one, appointed by Obama, Judge Paul A. Engelmeyer from the Southern District of New York. That's the guy who blocked the Doge from accessing the Treasury Department records. He's given well over $20,000 to Democrats, from Obama, the DNC, Biden, Chuck Schumer, John Kerry, even going all the way back to Clinton. The man Clinton, not the wife Clinton. Also, turns out his wife Emily appears to have been on the advisory board of Apollo Shop, which is, this is not a joke, folks, funds people making art in the mountains since 1969. And guess how they got funded? USAID. She's also involved in a number of other groups, one of which was a program specialist, whatever that means, at New York Association for New Americans. What do they do over there? The New York State Office of New Americans is created in 2012 to welcome immigrants and to help them in achieving their American dream. They assist all new Americans in accessing and navigating a variety of free services and support their inclusion as an integral part of New York State's diverse culture fabric. Right, this lib helped a bunch of illegals. That's his wife.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Am I suggesting these judges can't be impartial to Donald Trump? You bet I am. I'm not even going to hide it. Here's another one. This FISA court buddies as well. Judge Royce Lamberth in Washington, D.C. He was nominated by Ronald Reagan, actually. I guess times were really different back then. But here's something that I didn't think a judge could actually block. He was the one that blocked moving men back into men's prisons who claimed they were trans so they could be housed with women.
Oh, hell no!
He presided over also a number of January 6 cases where he was very critical of Trump's involvement, even though he could never actually cite any of that involvement. These judges are radicals. Look, here's a few more. Remember this guy? The federal judge, John McConnell from Rhode Island, who essentially said, we talked about him the other day, who essentially said that Trump can't stop dishing out unaccountable money. He must grant out things mainly from USAID. They must keep lighting money on fires, basically what he said. Turns out this guy has apparently donated thousands, and I do mean thousands of dollars to Democrats in over 100 individual donations to their committees and campaigns over the years, which is probably why his daughter, Catherine McConnell, was appointed by Biden in 2022 as a senior policy advisor to the Department of Education.
Meanwhile,
Democratic members of Congress barred from entering the Department of Education Friday morning as President Trump continues to threaten to diminish and eventually eliminate the department.
We're coming in. We're coming in. Don't lock the door. We're coming in. Who are you?
You're not coming in.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you, sir?
Do you have business here?
Yes. I have sent the assistant secretary a letter alerting her that we would be here today, and we've asked her for a meeting.
Yeah, I don't know that that's been accepted, so until that's
Wait a minute.
Who are you? Who are you? And what do you do here?
What do you do here?
Security responsibility.
Get out of the way. We pay for your job. We pay you. We pay you.
Nobody has accepted a meeting.
You
Wait a
are.
minute. We haven't heard that from the secretary. We haven't heard that from the spokesman.
I'm relaying that. I've explained why you're not coming in.
Well, are you prepared to stand here for 24 hours with us? Are you prepared to stand here all night if we decide to stay?
I guess, yes.
All right, well, you just stay right there. You just stay and stay.
Why aren't you letting us go to that desk like we were able to do last year?
He's not a U.S. employee.
This is a public institution.
meanwhile,
Education Department. Why nominate Linda McMahon to be the Education Department Secretary if you're going to get rid of the Education Department?
Because I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job. Education Department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, and we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice, but in addition to that, I want the states to run schools, and I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
Of course this judge wants to keep the gravy train rolling. His daughter works for the very machine that's about to be next on the chopping block. This is a pattern, okay? All these judges.
Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, you know, because nobody ends a contract. You got a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big. Yeah. But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. You know, it's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, you know? They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe. Yeah. It could be corruption. It could be a deals made on both sides, you know, where guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts. So he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got elected for, that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings. And he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy. What are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. And if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%. And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop. That's a fantastic scenario.
The other judge involved in blocking Trump's administration's federal funding freeze, Biden-appointed Lauren Alkan from D.C. She claims to be Palestinian. She issued a temporary restraining order to block the funding freeze. Let's look at her background. Oh, man. She was one of the who argued in favor of the Affordable Care Act. You remember Obamacare doubled the cost of everyone's health care right away. Her argument was, it was this simple. We already have it, so we should just keep it. She argued that in front of the Supreme Court. She also argued that churches should be shut down during COVID. Zero question where she stands. How about Clinton-appointed Judge George O'Toole? Okay, this guy from Boston, the judge who has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's federal employee buyout program. That's like seemingly popular. Like 65,000 people took it already. Obviously, people like it. Well, birthright citizenship. Look, I happen to believe that if you're here illegally and you pop out a kid, that's not what the Constitution intended, because you weren't supposed to be here in the first place. It's the same thing as like if I broke into a jewelry store and I was like, and I take this watch, but then I leave the cash on the counter, I'm going to jail. It's the same concept. A few judges have blocked this one as well. Judge John Kaufner, he was the first judge to block anything in Trump's second term. Now, in the 90s, he opposed the mandatory minimum sentences for bad guys. The second one who blocked it, Biden-appointed Maryland-based Judge Deborah Boardman. This woman gave a bunch of donations to Democrats, including Obama and Hillary campaigns and things like that. Also, she was responsible for telling parents that they could not opt out their children of reading LGBTQ books in school.
Boy, ain't no way.
She also sided with against oil companies, actually, in favor of an environmental group representing whales in the Gulf of America. Radical. But something that really caught my eye is this one of the judges that threw out the election challenges. She was one of those. In 2020, she never even let the case be heard. She threw it out on standing. Merits were never heard. How about the one that blocked all the FBI agents from being named who participated in the January 6th investigation? Judge Gia Cobb in D.C., nominated by Joe Biden again. After donating a few $100 to Act Blue, she threw the book at January 6ers and has been championing, reminding people how diverse she is, linking to her background in civil rights. Super. We all know about Judge Engoron laughing in Trump's face at the trial. Juan Merchan's daughter raking in millions of dollars from Democrat donors while using her father's trial as the topic for her fundraising emails. These people are activists. These are judges that no one elected, overruling the President of the United States. No thanks. And the irony is that the left is the one complaining, oh, no one elected Elon Musk. That irony is not lost on me. But they're happy to stand by these judges. Just real quick, if Trump wants to, I don't know, level the playing fields here, I'm just throwing this out there. You want to play stupid games, you can win stupid prizes. For starters, did you know, dating back to the Judiciary Act of 1789, the U.S. Marshals are actually responsible for all the security at federal courthouses? Well, that falls under the DOJ, which is under Trump. Maybe all those officers should get reassigned. Look, 77 million people elected Trump. And Elon was by his side, by the way, during this entire time. So don't tell me people didn't know he was coming in. Don't let some peon judge stand in your way, Mr. President.
Meanwhile, I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I said, we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. We want to weed out the corruption. And it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's a very serious, I think it's a very serious violation.
If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House, then we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy.